Peter Carey rots in hell, a short fiction. Life can be cruel. In this case it was very cruel. Joyce and Michael Carey had a son, and without any literary allusions in view, they named him Peter. Joyce was a stay-at-home mum and Michael worked in real estate. They had never so much as heard of Peter Carey, that odious and widely despised miscreant of Australian letters, who was born in Bacchus Marsh, the son of a used car salesman, thank you, and moved to New York, where he pretended to be an Australian novelist. Unsuspecting, Joyce and Michael had burdened their son with a name of broad contempt, and was certain to make life difficult for him. When life deals you a troublesome hand, though, astute players play the joker, and this is what Peter Carey, the son of Joyce and Michael, did. Everywhere he went, people would mistake him for the faux Australian who lived in New York. After a while, he realised that it would be profitable for him to play along. For example, he hit the Writers' Festival circuit, and in most cases could use his name to wangle free admission. Even more, since no one in Australia had even seen Peter Carey, who lived in New York and pretended to be an Australian novelist for over 30 years, and so no one knew what he looked like, he, the son of Joyce and Michael with the unfortunate name, could offer workshops on how to exploit Ned Kelly in fiction 120 years after Ned had been hung by his neck. He thought, if Peter Carey from New York can pretend to be an Australian novelist, so can I. No one liked him, of course. He had won 3 Miles Franklin Awards, a couple of Booker Prizes, and was only a bee's dick short of a Nobel Prize. But that is what made him contemptible. He had moved offshore to New York, and from there looted all of Australia's major literary contests. This happened at the same time that Australia's manufacturing industries moved to China, and the nation's most famous sporting wear brand was taken over by a company from Texas. Carey was the writing man's globalism. He thought he could sit on his laptop anywhere in the world, New York, London, Paris, Timbuktu, and write Australian fiction. In fact, he didn't need to go back to Australia ever, and he could still write Australian fiction and mop up all the prizes. He was like the lemons they grow in California that they sell in Melbourne, cheaper than the lemons they grow in Melbourne. The juice is tart, but you resent it. Nevertheless, Peter Carey is a Peter Carey, and Peter Carey traded on being Peter Carey for all it was worth. He signed autographs, gave interviews, and talked about his forthcoming novel. What people really appreciated, however, was his advertising copy. That's the other thing about Peter Carey from New York. He learnt everything he knew as a writer, he said, from working in the advertising industry. People would come up to Peter Carey, son of Joyce and Michael, posing as Peter Carey from New York, and say, "Hey Peter, really liked your ad for Surf Tide soap powder. Where do you get ideas like that?" He continued in this way until one day at a writers' festival, a woman walked up to him and said, "Rot in hell, Peter Carey," and spat in his face. She turned to her partner, standing beside her, held out her hand, palm up, and he slapped it. She believed she had been the basis for Peter Carey's Lucinda in the much-acclaimed 1988 breakthrough novel Oscar and Lucinda, later made into a film starring Kate Blanchard and directed by Gillian Armstrong. And so was her husband, who indeed was named Oscar. They had a wager that she wouldn't walk up to Peter Carey, tell him to rot in hell, and spit in his face. She won. After that, Peter Carey, son of Joyce and Michael, went back to being just Peter Carey, son of Joyce and Michael. In any case, Peter Carey from New York was growing stale and tiresomely post-colonial, and there came a day when, if he, son of Joyce and Michael, said to someone, "Hi, I'm Peter Carey, the famous Australian novelist from New York who hasn't been to Australia in 30 years, they would say, like his parents, "Who?" Life's cruelties abate over the long years. Eventually, in due course, The only people who would know of Peter Carey from New York when he wasn't rotting in hell would be a tiny sociologist of university-educated public servants living in the inner suburbs of Sydney. If Peter Carey, son of Joyce and Michael, just avoided those areas, he could look forward to a relatively normal life.